Sometimes in sports, it's a performance after something ruins your season that makes things awkward. Well, in the major sports, it's huge. Baseball, it's like, what would happen if the 94 season was actually still played? But of course, one of the major examples was 1981 when the baseball strike happened in the middle of the season and they had to lose 50 days of it and had to do the split season and all that. It's like, how did teams do and all that? Unfortunately, if you're a Reds or a Cardinals fan, you were pissed off because those two teams were the best teams in the National League, yet they didn't get to the so-called League Division Series because they weren't first place at any half. Basketball, it's got to be any efforts made in 1999 when the Toronto Raptors, for example, were close to making the playoffs, and the New York Knicks, who were the eighth seed in the East, actually, despite the strike ruining their season in a sense, it actually brought them prominence and all that, and they got to the final. For football, it's got to be any time 82 or 87 when the strike kind of ruined things and all that in the middle of the season. For the NHL, you're kind of thinking 2013. I know you probably think 95 or '05, but we're looking at 2013, the last time a hockey strike actually ruined the NHL. And a team that played in one of the best 7 game series in that 2013 playoffs and just got bit one round short. Anyway, let's talk about the 2013 Anaheim Ducks. Hello out there, we're on the air. It's Cutter with NHL time. Tensions blow, the whistle blown, and the pucks go down the ice. Some teams just want to win the cup and do it with a smile. Hey, that is cool. Up on the River Nile. Oh, the good old hockey game. Who will come out on top? Will a team get through the cup by any means necessary? Oh, the good old hockey game. It's the best game you can name. And I'm have no shame. I will simulate those hockey games. Woo! So the Anaheim Ducks, or what they were known as at one time, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, was a product of Disney. It was a Disney film in 1992 called The Mighty Ducks. It starred Emilio Estevez, known as Charlie Sheen's brother, um, being a big Minneapolis lawyer who breaks the law and gets punished for community service to deal with a ragtag boys hockey team or a ragtag hockey team at that because there were some girls on that team. So what happens is that Gordon Bombay, as lawyers know, tries to wrangle the kids and just can't. But he turns them into perennial champions and actually getting them to the finals against District 5, which, the Hawks, which was a team that Gordon Bombay played for and missed a critical shot in 1971, allegedly, to ruin his team's chances of winning the championship. Added more fact that the District 5 Hawks best player Adam Banks actually had to be moved from District 5 to the Ducks because of boundary changes. So there was blood and all that. But the ragtag Mighty Ducks win. Season, but there would be a second Mighty Ducks film and all that. That film actually was the one that brought the Ducks crest and the plum jerseys, in a sense. Because Gordon Bombay was made coach of the U.S. team for the Junior Goodwill Games and got to take all his Mighty Duck players, except for a few, alongside some American people from across America, like a Texas rodeo guy, a guy from Florida who had blazing speed but could not stop to save his life, and a goalie from New Hampshire by the name of Julie Gaffney. They played in the Junior Goodwill Games. They get walled by Iceland. Gordon Bombay turns out to like the Hollywood style and basically is so distracted by everything he doesn't pay attention to his team. But thankfully, Hans from Minneapolis and the rest of the crew get him to realize that he needs to light it up and all that. and the U.S. wins the gold medal in the shootout over Iceland. And then Mighty Ducks 3 came in 96 when Charlie Conway, the main guy, is upset about how his Mighty Ducks people who were brought in on scholarship to a high school are picked are picked on by a coach and the varsity team. So the varsity team plays the freshman team with the Mighty Ducks and hilarious. Nevertheless, because of this Disney thing, Anaheim got to get a stadium, get the Arrowhead Pond, and got to have their own team, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, despite the fact that Anaheim is a suburb of Los Angeles. But Michael Eisner made it happen, and the Ducks became the Ducks in 93 94, the same year as Florida. The Ducks would be slow to react, but in 1996, they would make a massive trade, trading away um, trading away Oleg Tverdovsky to the Winnipeg Jets for Teemu Selanne. Winnipeg was in a tight bind. They were basically on life support as a franchise before being moved to the U.S. The Jet the Jets were almost moved to Minneapolis for the 95-96 season, but didn't. And now Phoenix was taking over. Hockey in the Southwest, blah. Nevertheless, the Ducks got Teemu Selanne, and he was good. Alongside Anaheim's first ever draft picked, I believe, third overall. Well, Rob Niedermeyer, and then Paul Kariya. So basically, the Ducks were building on it. 97, they shocked the Coyotes in the first round, got swept by the Red Wings the next round, even though 3 of their 4 games went to overtime. The Ducks were consistent. They were brilliant things. Guy Hebert in the net. Paul Kariya, when he was healthy, was just huge. Of course, Gary Studer's hit on him before the 1998 National Olympics, notwithstanding. The Ducks were trying. They really were, but they just couldn't pick up the pace. But in 2003, as the 7th seed, they shocked a lot of people by their playoff run. This playoff run saw them face the Detroit Red Wings, who were the defending Stanley Cup champs and the 2 seed. But somehow, in some way, a young goalie by the name of Sebastian Jaguar, who was a Calgary flameout, pardon the pun, actually put up 63 saves in game 1 in triple overtime when the Ducks beat Detroit in Detroit. And then in game 4, Steve Bruchin scored the overtime goal on Cujo, and the Red Wings were going home. The Ducks would then face the Dallas Stars, and it was an entertaining series, especially game 1 when it went to quintuple or 5 overtimes. As Peter Sikora put it in the goal. And of course, this wasn't the first or last time Peter Sikora would have a flair for the dramatic in overtime. The Ducks would go on to face their another Cinderella team, the Minnesota Wild, who came back from 2-3-1 deficits. I'll get more onto that when I talk about the Minnesota history. But nevertheless, the Ducks and Wild face each other in an unlikely conference final. The winner would be mincemeat for either the Devils or the Senators. And thanks to Jaguar's performances, the Ducks swept the Wild and went on to the Stanley Cup Finals against the New Jersey Devils, who won Game 7 against Ottawa. But the Ducks didn't lay over. Although Berger would put up 3 shutouts against the Ducks in New Jersey, the Ducks won all 3 home games. Game 3, overtime goal by Ruslan Saleh. Game 4 by Steve Thomas, overtime goal, who waited 19 years to get to the final. And game 6 was the Paul Kariya one when he got hit by Scott Stevens. A few minutes later, somehow, in some way, he came back in the game and he scored over Martin Berger's shoulder. And Gary Thorne's called off the floor, on the board, Paul Kariya will last forever. Nevertheless, that's what happened. And the Ducks did lose the series in 7, but Jay Jaguar got the Conn Smythe Trophy for playoff MVP. The Ducks would 4 years later put on another clinic. They took care of the Red Wings in the 2007 conference finals, faced Ottawa in a series I did not want Ottawa to win, even though my Canadian pride is there. The Ducks took care of the Sens in 5 games, and the Niedermeyer brothers, Scott and Rob, could share a Stanley Cup. The Ducks have been doing decently with some key players, including Trevor Seagrass and Troy Terry nowadays. But the Ducks have been like off and on, off and on, off and on. But hey, they gave Teemu Selanne Stanley Cup in 2007, which was good. So we're talking about the 2013 Ducks and their first rounds against the Detroit Red Wings. Of course, the rule is no finals teams can have a redo. So anyway, let's talk about the 2013 Ducks. All right, so the 2012-13 season was the 20th season for the Ducks as a franchise. Of course, the 2013 lockout forced them to play a 48 game season and all that. They could only play intra conference games, meaning that they had to face teams within their own conference. And they put up 30 wins, were second in the West. But of course, first place was those pesky Chicago Blackhawks who just crushed everything. And those 2013 Hawks became the last team to win the President's Trophy for best regular season record and win the Stanley Cup as of this taping. So anyway, yeah, there were a lot of things happening and all that. So they compensated and all that. The first game of the structured season was January 19th, hosting Vancouver. Well, going to Vancouver and winning 7-3. They had their home opener against Vancouver, but the Ducks lost. Figured Foss became a 5-0 goalie as the Ducks beat the Blues in the shootout. And then Foss becomes 6-0 and beats the Blackhawks in a shootout 3-2. And the Ducks, February 15th, 2013, actually beat the Red Wings in Detroit for the first time in 5 years. They set a franchise record of getting 12 consecutive victories at home and all that. The Ducks beat the Blackhawks March 20th, 2013 in a 4-2 game, which was shocking. The Hawks only lost their third regulation game. All that. The Ducks would shock the Hawks again and sweep the season series for them. The Ducks were the second seed in the Western Conference, which was huge and all that. So they would be playing the Detroit Red Wings. Well, the Ducks were the best team in the Pacific at 66 points in 48 games. Kings and Sharks also made the playoffs. The Ducks had 66 points. The Blackhawks had 77. So the Ducks would face the 7th seed, which was Detroit, in a long race in which Columbus was so close, but Minnesota beat them at it. So anyway, in the postseason, taking on the number 7 Detroit Red Wings, they won game 1, lost game 2, won 3, lost 4, win 5, win 6, lost 6. So basically, it was win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. 4 of those 7 games went to overtime. They lost game 2 in overtime. They lost game 4 in overtime. They won game 5 at home in overtime, but lost game 6 in Detroit. So pretty much it was huge. But then Jonas Hiller got rocked by Jimmy Howard, and the Red Wings won 3-2, and meaning that the Ducks season was over and out. It's like, freaking real. Jonas Hiller and Victor Foss were sharing things right now. Massive moves of note. Matthew Lombardi was traded from Phoenix to Anaheim for Brendan McMillan. They didn't lose too many free agents. They signed Sheldon Survey from Dallas. They signed Brian Allen from Carolina. Radek Dvorak from Dallas. And then, that's what happened. They signed some players. The 2012 draft, they got future defensive icon Hampus Lindholm from Rogel. Their other major move was the Freddie Anderson move when they picked him up 87th overall from Frölunda in Sweden. So Freddie Anderson was drafted in the 3rd round. He is playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2025 as the Carolina Hurricane. So anyway, the Vancouver Canucks 3rd round pick went to the Ducks. It was part of the February 2011 deal that saw Maxime Laperriere go to Vancouver. So that was Vancouver's pick, and Freddie Anderson was the 3rd round pick. So the question on everyone's lips would be, what if the Ducks did beat the Red Wings? How would their playoff run hold out? But let's see. So what would have happened is that the Ducks as a 2 seed would have faced the LA Kings in the 2nd round. The Kings were the defending Stanley Cup champions. Reason being is that, the NHL reseeds after each round. So the Ducks were the 2 seed. The Sharks were the 6th seed, but and beat the 3 seed. But the Sharks were the worst team left. They would have faced the Blackhawks, who won the first round. So it would have been Sharks, Blackhawks, and then the Kings would have fell to the Ducks in the next playoff round. Of course, the Kings and Ducks did meet in 2014 in real life and saw the Kings take it. Anyway, game one in Anaheim at the Pond, the Kings won 4-2. Dustin Brown scored to make it 1-0 for the Kings. Saku Koivu, remember him, Duck fans? He made it 1-1. Dustin Brown and Justin Williams made it 3-1. Corey Perry made it 3-2, but Justin Williams scored again. Mr. Game 7, even though it was a game 1. Haha. Dennis Drewski and Alec Martinez would get more time. Sammy Vatanen and Ben Lovejoy only got a couple of minutes. The 3 stars, Dustin Brown, Justin Williams, and Johnny Quick. Game 2, and the Ducks decided to go back to Hiller. And it was the Ducks splitting the first 2 games 6-3. Jeff Carter and Justin Williams made it 2-0 for the Kings, but the Ducks tied it up on 2 goals by Ryan Getzlaf. Third period, if it's still 2-2, Sammy Vatanen, Mike Mapolitsky, Corey Perry, and Nick Bonino made it 6-2. Kings did score another goal with Jeff Carter, but it was over. Trevor Lewis only got 8 seconds of ice time. 3 stars, Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, and Jeff Carter. Series tied 1-1. Headed to game 3 in the Staples Center. And game 3 went to the Ducks 3-2 as Simon Gagne scored for the Kings. Remember him on the Kings? I don't. Bobby Ryan made it 1-1. And then Daniel Winnick made it 2-1 Ducks. Justin Williams made it 2-2. And then Teemu Selanne, yeah, he was playing for the 2013 Ducks. He made it 3-2 for the win. Only 36 seconds for Fontaine, and Trevor Lewis played for 3 seconds? Are you really? But anyway, nevertheless, Matt Green got injured for the Kings, but hopefully he'll come back. Hiller, Winnick, and Bobby Ryan were your 3 stars. Game 4 sees the Ducks lose to the Kings 5-3. Jared Stahl and then 2 from Jeff Carter made it 3-0. Nick Bonino and Bobby Ryan made it 3-2, but the Kings made it 4-2 on a goal by Justin Williams. Bobby Ryan made it 4-3, but with the net empty, Anze Kopitar, the pride of Slovenia, not just known for supermodels, made it 5-3. I know it says Estonia, but so sue me. Nevertheless, Justin Williams the game-winning goal, but Jeff Carter the first star, Bobby Ryan the second star, Ryan Getzlaf the third star. Despite the fact that the Kings won the game. So it's 2-2 headed to the Pond. Game 5 saw a massive move, but the Ducks won the game 5-3. Cogliano and Boschman made it 2-0. Kings made it 2-1. Jeff Carter. Sheldon Surrey made it 3-1. Justin Williams made it 3-2. Dustin Brown made it 3-3. So the Kings were coming close. But Cogliano, with 3:08 left, made it 4-3. And then Corey Perry scored on the empty net. And the Ducks are 1 win away from moving on to the conference finals. Cogliano, Solani, and Hiller are your 3 stars. So game 6 in LA. Let's see what the Kings can do. They can do something. We got ourselves another game 7. So the Ducks have to force. So the Kings force game 7. Mike Richards, Kitchener, made it 1-0. Kyle Palmieri tied it at 1. Jeff Carter and Dustin Brown made it 3-1. And then Mike Richards, Kitchener, Kitchener, made it 4-1. Richards named first star with Jeff Carter and Johnny Quick. So it's 3-3 headed to the Pond for game 7. And it would be the LA Kings would have won the series from the Ducks in 7 games. The Ducks would have fell in game 7 this time. Dustin Brown made it 1-0. Kyle Clifford, the unpride of the Leafs, made it 2-0. Dwight King made it 3-0. Salina made it 3-1. Dustin Brown made it 4-1. Getzlaf scored late, but that was it, 4-2. As Johnny Quick would prove to be the goalie from the 2012 finals. Doing his job, Dustin Brown the second star, Jonas Hiller the third star. So the Kings would have won game 7 in Anaheim. They would have faced the Chicago Blackhawks because the Blackhawks would have probably beaten the Sharks. And who knows, maybe the Kings probably would have taken out the Blackhawks. Probably not. Chicago probably would have won in 2013, and then the Kings would have got revenge for 2014. But, the Ducks came close in this one. I just had to do it. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.